What's up, everybody? Justin here, After Hours Auto Sports. Just wanted to throw a video together. Today we are going to be cracking into the Cagekits kit for Angela's S14. So this is going to be somewhat of a unboxing video, kind of what comes on the pallet, what to expect. And I've personally never seen one in person before, so I'm pretty excited. I've heard really good things about them. Seen people have good success with them, so I'm excited to be doing one. So we're gonna go in the back, crack open the pallet, open the box, kind of see what is in there, what we've got ahead of us, and go from there. So thanks for tuning in. All right, I'm in the office, got my knife. Let's go check out this pallet. So, this is how it comes, well packaged. Doesn't quite look like a roll cage could fit in there, but I guess we'll find out what's in there. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting this opened, and then we'll go from there. So I had to give up on the gimbal. Couldn't really control it while I was working on this. So here we go. As you can see, it's all sealed, looking nice. And figure out how to open this bad boy. See what's in it. Oh, missed a spot there. Boop. All right. So, here's what comes on the pallet. Seems pretty self-explanatory. So obviously, this is our main hoop, halo. Guessing those are the A-pillar bars, door bars, cage supports. So seems pretty simple. Let's see what we've got going on here. So as you can see, we got this S14 Formula Drift Spec cage, and I'm guessing the other page of this is a checklist. Yep, so it comes with a parts checklist. You can make sure you've got everything you're supposed to have in there. What I'm curious on is what's in the box, because I believe this comes with base plates and everything. It will just make life so much better. Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here. Holy shit. All right. I'm guessing these are, well, clearly these are base plates. Base plates, base plate, base plate, base plates, more base plates, and well, these are tiny bars. I'm guessing these are supports for the halo to the main hoop and the halo to the A-pillars. And then there's all these little bars, which I'm guessing are going to end up being door bar supports and stuff like that. Supports throughout. So, all in all, looks like it should be relatively painless. I kind of wish, and they might be, I haven't looked at these close. I think it would be nice if this came with some sort of map. Oh, maybe it does. So these do have etchings on them. What they go, which is what I was just going to say I wish they had. So that's awesome. And then I'm guessing something somehow translates into a map figure out where those go, just with the little door bars and stuff. Well, sweet. I'm going to get this the rest of the way unpackaged, and then we're going to be picking at it here and there. And then since we're here, Angelo's car is all but finished being stitch welded. My phone hates this dark under here. But the only thing left is the inside of the firewall, the upper seam in there. It's kind of a pain to get to. There's still a bunch of sound deadening, or not sound deadening, but seam sealer up in there. But other than that, it's all done. Just got to get up behind there, torch that seam sealer out, wire wheel it, get it cleaned up, mark it and do it. So that'll be done today. And then we will start on that Cagekits. So yeah, stay tuned. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos coming up, a lot more vlog style stuff with the trips and all of that. So be sure to subscribe. That way you can always be in the loop with what's going on. Thanks. All right, Justin here with After Hours Autosports. We already did kind of a little unboxing clip. I'm not sure if that's going to make it into a previous video or this one. But we kind of went through the palette of the Cagekits, what was in there, what it came with. Just a general unboxing. I decided I want to go ahead and make sort of a install video. It's not going to be necessarily a tutorial, just sort of some coverage of what we're doing, what we found, because I've never seen one up until this point, so I assume that most everyone who might watch this will be in the same boat. So the first thing, it is somewhat overwhelming to just look at this palette of bars, but once you start getting things separated, labeled, laid out, it starts to get more and more clear. Having quite a bit of prior cage building knowledge, there is sort of an order of operations to do things so that you don't screw yourself later on, which I already know, but a lot of you guys may not. So I'm going to try to do things in the order that I think is right. Hopefully it works out the same as a custom cage, and we'll go from there. So there'll be some time lapses. I'll stop the time lapses and kind of touch on some things as we go that I think require some commentary. And hopefully by the end of this, you are feeling confident in installing your Cagekit. Sweet. So the first thing I did, I hope this works. I have a new camera coming in next week to try to make these come out better. I'm using my phone right now, so sorry for the shakiness, and hopefully this isn't crazy zoomed in on my face. But the first thing I did was to unpack the palette and sort of lay things out. It did come with, like I showed in the unboxing video, somewhat of a an item sheet. So if you look on here, it's got part numbers and then a rough description of where they will land in the cage. So let me see if I can find one of these handy. Let me grab one of these bars. So if you look at each individual bar, and they're very lightly etched, so they're hard to find at first, but they are there. So here you can see this is S14 1000 or whatever, 1006. So when you pull that out of your palette and you're like, what the hell is this bar? Grab the sheet, go S14 10006. All right, that's our driver's side rear support. Easy. But what I did is I took it a step further, because I don't want to be doing that over and over and over, is once I figure out what things are, I'm just writing them on there. Also, it's a little hard to see on these bars because I've already gone over them. But if you look real close, there's an etched line in this bar. You can kind of see it right there. So what I did is I cleaned all these bars, which I believe there's a time lapse of. And then I went around and I circled all those in Sharpie just because the way the shop is right now, there's shit everywhere. So where I'm actually working on this car, it's pretty dark inside. So at least for the initial fitment process, that's just gonna make it easier to see because I can see it from feet away versus having to use a flashlight and try to find those. I will be cleaning those off with acetone before any welding takes place. You don't want that stuff in your weld causing any issues later on. So the first thing I decided to do when it comes to actually fitting the cage is try to figure out the homes for the base plates and sort of rough out some locations of stuff. So let me move this. So the rear base plates, and this is an S14 coupe, by the way, if that hasn't been mentioned. This is one of the rear base plates. I did go through and polish this up a bit with a flap disc, get some of the mill scale and some stuff off of it and get it prepped for welding. One mistake that I did make, however, was stitch welding this whole car prior to getting or starting on the cage. Not a huge issue, but there is some spots, like on these rear base plates, I can show you on the other side, where the spot welds are a little bit of an issue. As you can see, I've had to flap disc a couple of those down as they hold the base plate up and away from its sort of happy place. So the rear base plates set in there and there. Those will never need moved. So I'm gonna go ahead and weld those in. It's probably gonna be the first welds that I make on this kit are to weld those in. Then I'm gonna figure out the other two. The front A-pillar ones you do not want to weld in because you're going to have to drop this cage to weld the tops. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the rear base plates in. I'm going to tack in the main hoop base plates, but not fully weld them in because I'm not 100% sure where they sit. There's a couple different locations that they seem to be happy in, and I want to make sure they're in the right spot when I final weld them. So I'm going to weld in the rear support ones, tack in the main hoop ones, and then I'm going to get the main hoop in, the halo in, and the A-pillar bars in. And when I say in, I mean just mocked up. Potentially tacked, but definitely not fully welded. Because then what you're going to need to do is mark the floor where the A-pillar bars land down in the footwell area, trace that, and then pop through it with a hole saw so you're able to tilt the cage down to fully weld the tops of it. And that is very important. You should never skip out welding parts of the cage, and no tech should pass you if you do. So it's going to be a bit of work that this is a halo style cage. So it's actually, I'm going to have to hold sort of 3 different pieces together. So that might get interesting, but yeah. So like I said, I cleaned up the main, what I'm calling the main structure, you know, the main hoop, the roof hoop, the A-pillar bars, the rear supports. These are the door bars, the diagonal bars, the harness bars, all that, which I'm not going to worry about today. So I got all these cleaned up, marked, ready to start going in the car, and we will get moving on that. So one thing that I forgot to go over there is the tools that you're gonna need. I might update this as I go, as I come across some stuff. So right off the bat, this car, as you've seen, was already media blasted, but if yours isn't, you're gonna need wire wheels, a drill, lots of batteries, lots of patience, preferably a torch, some picks, pretty much whatever you can get your hands on to get the areas you're going to be welding as clean as possible. From there, I am prepping these joints for welding using a 3M Scotch-Brite roll-off pad, something along the lines of this, just to kind of brighten up the notches around the bottom where they're going to weld together, get them as clean as possible. You're going to want some acetone to clean the pipes off where you're going to weld. That way there's no contaminants getting in there causing any issues. You don't want to use brake clean. You can. You need to be extra sure that you are getting non-chlorinated brake cleaner. Using regular chlorinated brake cleaner with welding can and has been fatal to people. So make sure you're using acetone, or you're very damn sure it's non-chlorinated. As far as equipment goes, I'm using a Miller 211, I believe. Yeah, Miller-Matic 211, MIG gas, C25. This is on auto set, or this is an auto set, and it works really well. And I've done enough of these to know where it likes to be. So depending on your welder, you'll have to play with that some on your own. I'm not gonna go over welder settings because it's different welder to welder. Just make sure you're using solid wire with gas. You're not using flux core, and you have some decent heat. This 211 is on 220 volt. It would probably work on 110 turned up. This is probably overkill, but I don't want to risk it, and I have it, so why not? I'm using 030 wire to get better penetration. I personally wouldn't try it with 023. If it's what you have, it's what you have. I'm sure it will work. You will just have to adjust your travel speed and heat and all that to match it, to make sure you're getting good penetration on that cage. You're gonna need, obviously, since you're welding, a welding mask. I love this ESAB Sentinel. I've had it for years. It is excellent. Gloves. I'm an asshole and I MIG and TIG gloves. It doesn't get that hot and I like having the extra control. Bonus for prepping these discs, cleaning stuff up, just getting stuff ready to go, you're likely going to want a flap disc. I'm using, this one's real wore out, it still works fine. In my case, I'm using that to knock down some of these stitch welds I did, prep these plates, get them brightened up. You don't really want to hit the cage bars with it. It's okay if it's really worn out to prep the notches and stuff, but with a fresh one, you're going to screw up the notches, or you're going to leave kind of flat marks around the perimeter of the cage, which you don't want. And you definitely don't want to be grinding on the cage intentionally. That will fail you for tech at some places, and it's just a bad look all around. So that about covers the tools I think you should need. Like I said, I'll update this if there's anything not listed I have to grab in the process. But let's go ahead and start getting these base plates in. All right, so one quick thing I did just notice after welding that first one in that I hadn't before is the base plates that come with this are objectively, I'm not gonna say too thick, but they're thick. I just double checked, the FD rulebook mandates at least 0.08, which would be slightly thicker than a 14 gauge, which is 0.075. These are, when I check them, it's hard to do this and look. They're definitely bigger than 14. They're bigger even than an 1/8, and they're actually a 10 gauge, which is 0.135. So I usually do my custom cages out of 1/8, which obviously is not a huge difference, but it is noticeable. I'm not sure if that time lapse picked up. It probably did. That I did have to form that a little bit at the last minute once it was hot with the hammer, just to get rid of some gaps along the edges and tighten it up for a better weld. The thicker the plate, the kind of harder it is to weld to this thin body metal without burning through or coming up with kind of an undercut look on the plate, which doesn't look good. So it works fine. I don't have a problem with it. I would have preferred it to be slightly thinner, but it shouldn't pose an issue. I just wanted to note that if anyone was curious. So I got these rear strut tower base plates fully welded in. So next step, I'm going to try to figure out where the main hoop plates land and just kind of tack those in place so they're not sliding around while we're jamming bars around and stuff. But you can see, boom, there's that one. Boom, there's that one over there. You probably saw in the time lapse, they did take a little bit of shaping with the hammer at the last minute. That kind of always happens. Don't let that be off-putting. I don't think I've ever welded a base plate that hasn't just picked up a little bit from the heat or just needed a couple taps to set down flat to the base metal. The bigger the gap there is, the more of a chance there is of burning through the thin metal. And you're really trying to hit the wire just on that plate and kind of let it drop down into the base metal, because otherwise you're going to blow right through it. So I just find that getting all the little air gaps out, beating it down with a hammer as you go, helps significantly. So we're going to move on to trying to fit the main hoop base plates and go from there. It's a little unclear sort of where they're supposed to sit. They don't have a very distinct home like the rear ones did. So they can kind of slide anywhere, you know, within reason there. So I'm trying to do is, you know, there's these two holes here. I printed out these just to have as a quick reference from his website of which bars, what it's kind of supposed to look like. Kind of like looking at the front cover of a puzzle while you're trying to do it. But also on the website, I didn't print. My office is a mess. He's got these